Welcome to Designing Healthcare That Cares, the show where we explore how to build healthcare systems where people and performance thrive. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Suttin, a physician, coach, and healthcare leader who believes that human flourishing and organizational excellence go hand in hand. Each week, I talk with leaders, change makers, and innovators about how to shift culture, lead with purpose, and tackle the root causes of burnout. Because when healthcare works for the people in it, everyone wins. Welcome to the Designing Healthcare That Cares podcast. I'm really excited to have our guest today. I'll introduce her to you, Dr. Cindy Howard. She is a leader in wellness and the author of the award-winning Positively Altered: Finding Happiness at the Bottom of a Chemo Bag. As a board-certified chiropractic internist and nutritionist, she owns Innovative Health and Wellness Center and serves in a variety of leadership positions, including the boards of Inguardia Health and FullScript, as a respected voice and longstanding ACA Illinois delegate for nearly 20 years. As the founder of the Positively Altered Project, Dr. Cindy unites professionals to reimagine workplace and personal wellness. Through her book, podcast, and speaking engagements, she delivers science-backed strategies for sustainable well-being that integrate mental, physical, and emotional health. Known for her warmth and authenticity, Dr. Cindy inspires audiences with her quirky sense of humor, practical wisdom on resilience, and knack for finding joy amid adversity. Learn more about her wit and wisdom at drcindyspeaks.com, and we'll share that information with you. Welcome, Cindy. So good to have you.
Oh, Laura, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, me too. So tell us about your journey. I know cancer is a big part of your journey. Tell us about you and how you got to where you are now.
Oh, well, it's a lot of decades, but I came from a very allopathic-based Western medicine family, knowing not too much about the space that I'm in. And in college, wanted to become a physical therapist. And there's always the sad part of the story. Couldn't get into school and it was very competitive, and made a shift into the chiropractic space just based on somebody's recommendation to look at that branch of medicine, and did, and got a degree in chiropractic with a board certification in internal medicine and nutrition, and opened a private practice that I love. And I've been doing it for 26 years. And got hit over the head with a health challenge myself about 11 and a half, 12 years ago, where I self-diagnosed Hodgkin's lymphoma and had to make some really interesting decisions and choices on how to move through that challenge, which really also shaped then how I continued to treat and help patients from that moment on. And it really was life-altering.
Yeah, goodness. I'm sorry to hear that. And how are you doing today?
I'm great. And thank you, but don't be sorry. I know this is going to sound crazy, but it was really an amazing gift, the journey that I walked through, because there were so many cool challenges and things that I learned about myself and even other people with that. Looking at it with a different set of eyes and a perspective of, I know it's going to sound weird when you say cancer, but fun and enlightenment and empowerment. I'm actually grateful for the experience and I feel great. August 27th of 2025 was my 11-year anniversary from my last treatment, and no sign of a screaming disease. So I'm grateful and glad to have gotten through that challenge.
Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing and for that perspective. I have not been through a life-altering diagnosis like that myself. I have, of course, treated lots of patients who have, and then talked to several folks just in life and on the show about what that's like. And I hear that from others is I'm grateful for the experience. And from the outside looking in, it sounds unimaginable that you would be grateful for having had cancer. And yet here you are sharing that with us.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice. And I would tell you, it probably wasn't the first thought I had. It took a few iterations of that negative thought to turn it into a positive one. But we challenge people to look at anything. And cancer is always just such a scary word. And we give that so much power in a negative way. But it's really any challenge we have, whether it's medical or otherwise. It's all in how you want to take it on. And as long as we wind up on the other side of it, which most of us can, not always, but most of us can, then it's a journey that can be viewed very differently than I think most of us commonly default to.
Yeah. Again, when you were younger, you weren't wishing this on yourself by any means. And at the same time, it happened to you and it was outside of your control. And so what I'm hearing is that you realize that you could choose how you approach the situation, how you looked at the situation. You could choose your behavior and your thoughts and your mindset. And so What has been the big shift for you before and after having had cancer? What was your life philosophy before that and during, and then how's that shifted?
It's a great question. I think most of it was really about perspective. And it's this challenge every day that I think we have because we're wired to think negatively, to just be angry and upset and point out all the things that are wrong in the world or my life. And, sort of that, why do things happen to me and what did I do to deserve it? Sort of that victim mentality. And I think if you knew me prior, you wouldn't say, oh, she behaved that way all the time. But I think inherently there were those challenges always that I didn't work too hard to overcome. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there is sort of this, you're faced with something that really could end your life. And let's face it, nobody knows the last day and that could happen in any moment. But there is that, okay, what do I want to do differently if this really is going to be the end of my life? Right. And what would I change? And I never really thought I was going to die through this. I took that attitude of this is a massive speed bump and I'm going to ride over it as hard as I can and get on the other side of it. But there was still that underlying reality that makes us realize we do have an end date. There is an expiration at some point in time. And I think from that moment on, and I'm still nowhere near perfect, but from that moment on, it's been this constant internal conversation of how do I find the good, the gift, the compliment, the upside to all the crap?
Mm-hmm.
Because the complaining and the downside of it really didn't get me a whole lot further than I thought I was stuck in. And now both personally and professionally, there's so much more joy and reward and energy that's put in the right place as a result of that messaging.
Yeah. I imagine that during the time when you were receiving treatment and in the thick of it, your time and your energy for sure was limited, right? And so you had to be very selective about who you gave your energy to and who you gave your time to. I see you nodding. So that probably really shaped how you spend your time and energy now.
It's really easy to allow people and things and situations into your life and assume that they're supposed to stay there instead of really figuring out if they're serving you a higher purpose or you're serving a higher purpose to that person as well, and making a conscious decision to participate in that. And it's interesting because I had some really small experiences where I met people for moments, quite frankly, that were life altering, that had I pushed to make that a longer term relationship, I think would have been more harmful than helpful. And it's that recognition that especially people have a season in our lives. And sometimes we're there to serve them and sometimes for them to serve us and sometimes both. And we have to know that it's okay to let them in and let them out.
Yeah.
And be okay with that. And that journey through cancer really taught me that in a way that now feels really good, that when people are there for a season, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. I've heard this from other places, but I had a friend in college tell me people are in your life for a reason, for a season, or for a lifetime. And that really, really stuck with me. I can remember clear as day where I was sitting in the college cafeteria listening to him say this. And it's so true. And it's just what you said is that some people are going to come in and out of your life. And some people might be in your life that aren't meant to be there. And so there's that letting go, which is really hard to do. Letting go of people, of things, of relationships, of beliefs that we have. And yet when your energy and your time are so limited, then you have to make those choices. You're almost forced to.
You do. And I think when you practice them, they actually get easier.
Yeah.
They become more comfortable when you practice them. And the first, 1, 2, 10, 30 times, whatever it is, can feel very unnerving. And did I make the right decision? Am I hurting somebody else? Right? There's all those questions that you roll through. But when you practice it, it becomes so much easier. And you realize that sometimes you're doing more harm by the opposite.
Yes.
So getting good at it, it's very challenging for a lot of people, but it's really important.
Yeah. Otherwise, we just feel like we're constantly stuck and we're weighed down by other people's expectations of us and what other people think about us. And we can't control that. We can only control what we do. I agree with you. The concept of us being in charge of what we let in our lives is so profound. And it sounds so simple, but I mean, even on a daily basis, it's like, do I really want to watch the news? Am I really going to log onto that site or whatever? It's like, no, I get to choose what I allow into my reading and my brain. And so, yeah, it really is empowering.
Yeah, there's an interesting concept that I really sort of leaned into through this because I've learned to dislike that word stuck, right? It feels very, ready for an intelligent word, icky. It feels really icky to be
Yeah.
stuck. And I've worked really hard to take that word stuck and make it be shift, right? So when I
Yeah.
feel like I'm in a place that I don't belong, I don't like, doesn't resonate, instead of saying I'm stuck here, I shift, right? A different direction with a different attitude or a different perspective. And that word shift has been very empowering for me.
Yeah. I
in
love
my
that.
journey.
I love that. What are the tools that you utilize that help you make that shift?
A lot of self-talk. I think that's the big one. There's a technique that I use. It's actually based in what's called emotional freedom technique, what people know as EFT. And it's a technique that allows me to decide what kind of energy I feel from an activity, a person, a thought. And when there's a lot of power given to something negative, it's the self-talk to pull me back down to take that energy away. Or if there's something I need to give more energy to, it's about that self-talk to direct that energy into. Sounds weird, but I give things a number with how it resonates me. Is it a 10 on a good side or is it a 10 on a bad side? If something resonates as this 10 because it comes out of anger, then it's that self-talk to realize, why am I angry? What is it about it that makes me angry? And how can I shift that angry to be something more productive?
Yeah.
So, if you see me wandering the streets having a conversation with myself, you might think I'm a little crazy, but it is that internal dialogue that I constantly have with myself to make sure that the decisions I make and the way I approach things really feels right for me.
Yeah.
And not from that external validation from outside sources.
Yeah. I've heard of EFT in the context of tapping, but it
Yeah.
sounds like there's a difference, which I kind of equated the two. So
No, tapping is part of that. And I was just pulling out one of the components.
Yeah.
Tapping is a very powerful way to let go of the energy of something
Yeah.
negative. I've used that technique for a couple decades now to really help me through some of my challenging situations. And, that's just one technique. There's many of them out there that are fantastic, but that's one that feels right? It's a comfortable therapy for me to use in my space.
Yeah. It sounds like what I heard you say is we can choose the energy and the energy in the form of the emotion. So it's almost like we can choose which emotion we are giving our attention to. Am I hearing that correctly?
You can, right? So like I can spend my day being angry if I want to.
Yeah.
Or I can figure out why I'm angry about that thing or that person and figure out how to shift it into something more positive to learn from that experience or create a new experience rather than festering in that negativity. It's hard. Our brains just aren't wired to think positively. So we have to do that purposeful activity to overcome those negative messages that I think we say tens of thousands of times all day long.
Oh man. For me, I don't know if I'm alone in this. Probably not. Sometimes it feels really good to be angry. Sometimes it can feel really righteous and I feel really proud of myself and I feel right about how angry I am. But I've done enough work on myself and, working with clients and I finally get to a point where like, okay, this isn't productive anymore.
Right.
Listen, we all rate sad, angry, frustrated, whatever the
Emotion is. I think you honor that. But to your point is when it stops serving you in a positive way, then shift it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm able to get to that place a little bit more quickly now by kind of recognizing like, okay, what is this serving me? And a lot of times it feels really good to be angry right now. I'm feeling pretty proud of myself for, and right about this situation. And I internalize my emotions. I'm not an outward emotional person. So yeah, but once I can stop and ask myself, like, okay, is this getting me anymore? What purpose is this serving me? And that's a tough question. But like you said, that takes practice.
It does. It does. And it's a great question, right? Because if it does continue to serve you, then go do it.
Right.
I wouldn't tell you to stop your, whatever that emotion is, if it's really, truly serving you. It's just that we find out most of the time with any length of time when it's negative, it doesn't continue to serve us. It becomes a detriment.
Yeah. Sometimes anger can spur positive action and that type of thing. But in a lot of situations, it doesn't. And so it's really all about finding out what's this emotion. I asked a client a while back, if this emotion had a message, what would it be telling you? What's the message it's sending you? So sometimes I ask myself that question, just kind of when I get that nagging, like something's not right, what's the message in here? And so, yeah,
No, it's a great question. And I love that you said that, like when something's not right, like listen to that, right? Don't try
yeah,
to make it right. Recognize when it isn't.
yeah, yeah. So, how are you spreading your message these days? I know, of course, as a speaker, and that's how we got to know each other, got to meet through the community that was formerly Impact 11. So, yeah, how are you influencing others these days?
So I have my fingers in a lot of different projects and I still have my own personal practice. So I see patients 3 times a week. And I love that one-on-one being able to really spend time because especially in the medical space where I think appointments are getting shorter and treatments are getting less accurate and people are frustrated, right? In the medical space, we really spend a lot of time in our office with patients and we hear them and recognize what their goals are because sometimes their goals are very different as a practitioner than my goal. And, there's compromise sometimes, but, we figure out how to lead them on the right path that feels good for all of us working together. So I love my private practice and I still educate on the doctor side. So I do a lot of running around the country teaching other doctors on continuing ed. But my latest, greatest passion that really truly feeds my soul is the keynote speaking. Like I just love to be on stage facilitating a conversation with a bunch of people that might only just need to hear one simple sentence that I say that, as cliche as it is, could change the outcome of something that they've been dealing with in a more positive way. And it's really fun to feel the energy of an audience and to get feedback from the people who hear you and even get challenged by people who don't even like your message in a way that allows me to also look at the delivery differently. And I think both of those things have been really fun for me because it helps me hone in my craft and elevate my game and realize that even though I know I have a message, it's not a one size fits all for everybody. And that too constantly shifts in the space of keynote speaking. It's been really fun.
What kind of challenges are you hearing? Are there myths that are floating around that you have to dispel?
Oh, it's a great question. I mean, I think there's this concept of can't that's
Mhm.
really, really hard, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's in the business space of, I can't do another job. I can't work with these people. I can't figure out how to get healthy. I mean, you can put the word can't in front of so many things. And I love to tell people they can and they will. Now, will they? I don't really know, right? At the end of the day, they have to make those choices. But I think the myth about us as human beings is getting set in that mindset of the can't.
Yeah.
And it's really a won't.
Mhm.
It's really a won't. Most of us won't. We can.
Yeah.
It's not that we can't. And I
Yeah.
think that's the struggle that no matter what we look at, whatever the challenge is, right? Whether it's leadership, whether it's diversity, whether it's overcoming challenges, it almost doesn't matter when the framework is put into a positive spin. And most of us don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I could not agree with you more. I recently reheard the phrase, I don't remember where it came from. Maybe you can tell me is whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's so true. And just like you said, our brains are wired towards the negative, and it is so easy to get stuck in that mindset of I can't. And then again, we're right. We're stuck. We don't move forward because we don't recognize that we really have the power and the choice to take that next step towards our goals and whatever those goals might be. I work with a ton of physicians. And of course, as you know, the physician burnout. I mean, a lot of physicians feel stuck and feel like they can't get a different job or they can't talk to their boss or they can't take some administrative time or can't ask to not work Saturdays and all these things. And it's really very pervasive, as I'm sure you're seeing, just this mindset.
And that's the hard thing because, like, when you make the comment, well, I can't take off Saturdays. Well, you can, you might not have a job. There's a consequences. But at the same time, if that really doesn't resonate with you, right? Like, let's say that interferes with your family life, or yes, it's contributing to burnout because you're putting in too many days. Maybe it's okay that you lose your job. And I know that's going to scare some people, but if you lose your job, you're going to be forced to look for another opportunity that might match better versus the miserable and the one that I have.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get scared, right, of the consequence when they speak their truth instead of, again, looking at that consequence as an opportunity to move through it to something better.
Yeah.
It's frightening for a lot of people.
Yeah. Sometimes that's an exercise that I'll go through with my clients is, well, let's play it out. What could happen if you do this? And maybe it's not as extreme as not working on Saturdays, but just asking to take a walk for lunch instead of sitting there and doing charts, or asking your medical assistant to call that patient instead of you doing it. So it can be those really small actions that spark a lot of fear in people. I mean, I have felt it. I feel it all the time. Something will come up and I'll just stop myself. But if I go through the exercise of like, well, what am I really afraid of? What's the worst that could happen? And then realizing that's not likely to happen. I'm not likely to lose my job because I asked the medical assistant to call that patient. But like you said, speaking that out can be really powerful.
It is. And we've got to get better at it, right? Because
Yeah,
to your point, just because I ask you doesn't mean you're going to say yes. You do have the privilege of saying no.
right.
Right?
Exactly.
So, okay, we're no better off. But then taking it one step further of, okay, what would it look like if there was a different approach, though, too, that the medical assistant could say yes, feeling good about that decision, and the doctor also could feel good about that, that
Mhm.
wasn't presented in the initial conversation, right? So even if you hit that roadblock of the no, how do we shift that opportunity into something that works for everybody involved where we can prevent the burnout? And we forget to take that second step then too. I shouldn't have asked, right? Like that was a mistake. And you just go back to the same hole pit that you're in instead of finding a good alternative. I think we've got to get creative in that.
Yeah. Yeah. I see it as coming from that part of us. I don't know what part it is, but that part of us that really just doesn't want us to feel better about ourselves or reach that goal or hit that milestone. Or it's that kind of that part of us that wants to stay in the pit and stay.
Comfortable,
It's comfortable. It's
comfortable.
comfortable.
In a weird way, it becomes comfortable
Yeah.
because it's what we know, right? So if
Yeah.
we know misery, if we step out of misery, we're not sure what it looks like and what it'll feel like. And I think that becomes scary, which is very sad, right? Because even if you step from misery to misery, it's still misery. I mean, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of the mindset I think we need to get ourselves in that we don't really go backward, right? Every step is a forward step to something else. And even if that next step is not where you want to be, take it anyway, because it's going to lead you to a place that you're not sitting in currently.
Right. Yes. And the very act of doing something about it will help to galvanize and move you forward. Even if you're moving off course, you're doing something. And that's something that's been a big game changer for me is I remember I had a coach a few years ago that I was telling her I wasn't confident. I don't remember what it was. And she's like, "Do you think that confidence just falls from the sky?" I was like, "No." And learning that confidence comes from actually taking the action and doing the thing. And that's what builds confidence. It's not just sitting around and magically waiting for confidence to show up. So I feel like I'm prepared.
Right. And one of the things that served me when you asked me about tools too, and this is going to sound a little ridiculous, I love my failures. I don't want failures. I don't look for failures, but I
Yeah.
love my failures because it's in those that I learn the most actually about myself, not about the failure, but how I can respond or be resilient to that, knowing that if I can do that, I can do the 10 more things that are coming my way.
Yeah.
So I embrace those,
Yeah.
and we're all going to have them. I mean, I don't know anybody that's walked through their life without failures. They're all different, but
Exactly.
pretty impossible to do.
Yeah. And then redefining that. Is it, well, okay, I failed. Well, maybe I didn't get to mission A that I expected to get to, but I got to mission B, which was the learning and all these other positive things that came out of it. So maybe it wasn't even a failure. And I know
Mhm.
everybody has different semantics on how they look at it, but that can be really helpful.
Yeah, I love that word. I think it's actually a positive word. Most people would tell you it's a negative word.
Yeah.
I look at that as a very positive word. It's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
Failure is a challenge. And when we use challenge instead of problem, I think it's easier to work through that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I do that all the time. The problem isn't, the challenge is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then even my energy gets, changes in the way of, oh, it's a challenge. Okay, bring it, right? Like, okay, throw it at me. I got this versus if they're like, oh, we have a problem. I'm like, oh, what now? What's
Right.
next? Right.
Right.
And it's the way we use some of those words in the language too, I think is another really important tool for me. Even going back to the cancer, when I say I made cancer fun, it's a ridiculous statement, but for me, it was really true. And I chose that, right? I wanted cancer and fun in the same sentence versus cancer was devastating and horrible and all of those things. I just didn't use those words.
Yeah. Yeah. Language is so powerful too. I love that. And just the shift in energy versus using the word like problem versus challenge. Seems like we're wired towards challenges. That's why we go on game shows and do crazy things like run marathons. But problems are like, oh,
They
yeah.
feel heavy, don't they? They feel really, really heavy.
Yeah. I love that.
And we got to lift that up,
Yeah.
So challenge yourself every day.
Yeah.
And it feels a whole lot better than what problems am I going to walk into when I get out.
Thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience before we go?
Oh, that's a loaded question because there's a million things, that I would love to share. For those of you, whether you're struggling or not struggling, just sit back and figure out exactly what path you want to take and know that you can actually do it, right? And you've got to take those little steps, even if it's just that self-talk of, I'm going to do something different today to get there. Because if you say you can't, you're right, you can't, and you actually can, and you will. And I hope that's, the message from today is that we're all going to move forward in exactly the way we choose. Just choose wisely and make it your own.
Love that. So empowering. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure, Laura. This is great.
Yeah, so good to talk to you.
Same here.
Thanks for listening to Designing Healthcare That Cares. If today's conversation gave you a new idea or inspired you to see things differently, share this episode with a colleague and keep the conversation going. And if you're ready to take the next step in building a thriving healthcare culture, you can find resources and ways to connect with me at drlaurasuttin.com. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not medical advice, and it should not replace care from a qualified healthcare provider. Always seek the guidance of your physician or other qualified professional for any medical questions or decisions.